Have you ever felt that creeping sensation, like something's not quite right? It's not a fear of what's in front of you, but of what you're avoiding. The things you won't face. The things that terrify you on a deeper level. The things you think you can just ignore, push aside, and hope they'll disappear. But they don't. They never do. What if I told you that the very things you avoid are the ones that control you? The more you run, the tighter their grip becomes. The anxiety you feel, yes, that constant gnawing discomfort, it's not just a random feeling. It's the dizziness of freedom. It's your mind desperately trying to tell you that the more you avoid, the more you're enslaved by your own fear. You see, avoidance is a trap. The more you avoid, the more it defines you. It's not the obvious things, the ones you can point at and say, that's what I'm running from. No, it's the subtle ones. The things you try to push to the edges of your awareness, the feelings you don't want to acknowledge, the choices you keep sidestepping because they seem too dangerous to confront. Kierkegaard knew this all too well. He called it anxiety. Not anxiety like the kind that grips you when you're facing a big decision, but the deeper kind. The one that bubbles up when you feel free, when you realize you have infinite possibilities and yet you can't seem to move. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, he said. Let that sink in. Freedom. The thing you crave more than anything. The word you whisper to yourself when you feel trapped. The dream you cling to when everything else feels suffocating. The idea that keeps you moving forward, even when you're not sure why. You tell yourself that once you're free from expectations, from fear, from all the weight pressing down on you, then, finally, you'll be okay. But here's what you never see coming. Freedom, real freedom, is not peace. It's not that soft, weightless thing you've built up in your head. It's not calm mornings and easy choices. It's not the absence of struggle. That's the lie. That's the illusion. Real freedom is terrifying. It's the collapse of every excuse you've ever held on to. It's staring down 100 different paths and knowing no one will choose for you, that no one can. No roadmap. No safety net, just you, alone, standing at the edge of something enormous, with nothing but your will to guide you. And that's where the fear starts to creep in. Not because freedom is dangerous, but because it's heavy. It carries the unbearable weight of choice. You feel it in your chest, don't you? That tightening, that pull, that subtle, quiet panic. That's what freedom really feels like. You think you want it. You say you do. But when you finally get it, when everything is open and unshaped and yours to define, you freeze. Because with every choice comes the possibility of failure, of regret, of pain. You start to realize that for every door you open, 1,000 others slam shut. That no matter what you choose, there's always something you've given up, something you'll never get back. And that kind of responsibility? It's paralyzing. So instead you avoid. Not consciously, not all at once, but slowly, quietly. You start to back away from decisions that matter. You tell yourself it's just not the right time. You wait. You plan. You overthink. You distract yourself with the little things, the meaningless ones, because they don't require anything real from you. They don't carry risk. And you convince yourself you're being careful, that you're being smart, that someday, when the fear goes away, when everything's clearer, you'll make the big move. You'll choose. You'll live. But you don't. Because deep down you already know, freedom will never feel safe. There's no moment when you'll feel completely ready. The fear doesn't leave. The dizziness doesn't stop. That's the cost of having options. That's the burden of possibility. It's why so many people give up on themselves before they've even begun. They'd rather live in a world that chooses for them than one where they have to face the terrifying truth. You are free. You are always free, even when you feel stuck, even when you feel like everything's closing in. You can still choose. You can always choose. And that's what makes freedom so brutal. Because when you don't choose, when you hide, when you avoid, it's still a choice. It's a choice to stay small, to stay silent, to stay exactly where you are. And you'll suffer for it, not immediately, but eventually. You'll wake up one day and realize that you've been living someone else's life, that your days are filled with tasks that mean nothing, relationships that don't move you, choices that don't reflect who you really are. And the worst part? You'll know you did it to yourself. You'll know that it was never the world holding you back, it was you. It was your fear of failure, your fear of regret, your fear of pain. But pain isn't the enemy. Neither is regret. The enemy is avoidance. The enemy is silence. The enemy is the lie that you're not ready. You are. You've always been. You just didn't want the responsibility that came with it. Because when you're free, there's no one left to blame. There's no more hiding. There's only truth. And truth is loud. It's uncomfortable. It forces you to act. But if you can face that, if you can look that fear in the eye and still move forward, you'll find something deeper than comfort. You'll find meaning. You'll find direction. You'll find you. Not the version that plays it safe, not the one who waits. The version that chooses, even when it's messy, even when it's terrifying, even when the weight of freedom threatens to crush you. Because that's the only version of you that's truly alive. It's easier to stay in the safety of avoidance. It's easier to stay stuck, to pretend you don't have to choose. But you do. Every single day. And what's worse, the more you avoid, the more you're controlled by the very thing you think you're escaping. The anxiety doesn't fade when you refuse to make a decision. It doesn't go away when you push the fear under the rug. It only gets stronger. It twists and turns, pulling you into a cycle where the more you avoid, the less control you have. Think about the last time you avoided something important. Maybe it was a conversation you didn't want to have. Maybe it was a decision you were too afraid to make. Maybe it was something inside of you that you refused to face because you knew it would change everything. How did it feel afterward? Did it go away? Did the weight lift from your chest? Or did it sit there simmering, festering, quietly pulling at the edges of your mind? The truth is, every moment of avoidance is a moment where you give up your power. You give up your ability to choose your own direction, your own path. You choose to stay in the same place, trapped in your own anxiety, because the alternative, the freedom of choice, is too dizzying to bear. You avoid because freedom feels like a burden. You avoid because you're terrified of what could happen if you let yourself go. You avoid because you can't handle the consequences of what it means to be truly free. So you stay small. You stay comfortable. You stay where you think you're safe. But are you? The real danger isn't in the choice you might make. The real danger is in what happens when you don't choose, when you let anxiety take the wheel, steering you further away from the life you could have lived, when you let it hold you hostage, making every decision for you until you can barely recognize yourself anymore. You think you're avoiding the pain, but what you're really doing is avoiding the growth. The pain you run from is the very thing that could lead you to something greater. The thing you avoid today will come back to haunt you tomorrow, stronger and more insistent than before. And the more you run, the more you lose the ability to make a choice at all. Look at your life right now. What are you avoiding? What's that one thing that keeps showing up in your mind, but you quickly shove it away, telling yourself you'll deal with it later? You'll never deal with it later. It will never go away. You have to face it now. Kierkegaard didn't just tell you that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. He meant it as a warning and a way out. See, he wasn't just pointing at the problem. He was handing you the key. But here's the thing about keys. They don't open the door for you. You still have to reach out, turn the lock, and walk through. And that's where most people stop. Right there. Hand trembling, key in hand, staring at a door they're too scared to open. But not because the door is locked, not because they're trapped. No, it's because the second they open it, they have to choose. They have to move. They have to become responsible for their life. And that's terrifying. Because suddenly, you can't blame anyone else. Suddenly, the weight of your existence falls on you. Your choices, your actions, your silence, your avoidance. Kierkegaard understood something most people miss. That anxiety isn't just fear, it's the ache of infinite possibility. It's what happens when your mind is flooded with paths and you realize each one leads somewhere different, somewhere unknown. And you? You have to decide which one to walk. But here's the twist. It doesn't matter which path you pick. That's the secret no one tells you. That there's no perfect choice. no guarantee, no path without pain. What matters isn't the destination. It's that you moved. You made a decision. You stepped forward instead of circling the same hallway of avoidance over and over again, convincing yourself you're waiting for the right moment. There is no right moment. There's just now. And if you keep waiting, if you keep avoiding, you let fear run your life on autopilot. You hand it the wheel. You convince yourself that standing still is safer than moving forward, but it's not. Stillness is an illusion. Time doesn't stop. Life doesn't pause. And the longer you delay your choice, the more that anxiety grows. It wraps tighter around your chest. It settles into your bones. It becomes the air you breathe until you can't remember what freedom ever felt like. But you tell yourself it's better this way, safer, cleaner. You don't risk anything. You don't fail. You don't get hurt. But you also don't live. You don't grow. You don't become. And that's the real cost of avoidance. You think you're saving yourself from pain. But what you're really doing is choosing a slow kind of death. One that feels like safety but tastes like regret. So what if you just made a choice? Not the perfect one, not the safe one. Just one. What if you stopped trying to escape the dizziness and let it wash over you instead? What if you accepted that anxiety doesn't mean something's wrong, but that something matters? Because it does. That pit in your stomach, that racing heart, that cloud of overthinking, it's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to wake you up. It's trying to tell you that you're standing on the edge of something important, that you're about to become someone new. And yes, that's scary, but it's also powerful. Because when you make a choice, any choice, you begin to shape the world around you. You stop letting it shape you. It doesn't matter if you fail. It doesn't matter if you fall flat on your face. What matters is that you stopped letting fear write your story. You picked up the pen and said, no more. You chose direction over doubt, movement over stagnation, presence over paralysis. And that's the first step out of the trap. Not perfection, not certainty, just action. So here's your invitation. Pick something. Face something. Speak the words you've been choking on. Open the message you've been ignoring. Take the risk you've been rehearsing in your head for months. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, because the trap doesn't disappear, the fear doesn't go away, but it loosens when you stop letting it make your decisions for you. When you show it you're not afraid to move, that's how you take your power back. You choose, even when you're dizzy. Especially when you're dizzy. Because that's what freedom feels like. When you choose, you take back control. You claim your freedom no matter how dizzying it feels. Freedom is not the absence of fear, it's the ability to move through it. It's the courage to step into the unknown, knowing that the only way to truly live is to take the reins and stop letting avoidance control your every move. So the next time you feel that pull to avoid something, whether it's a conversation, a decision, or a feeling, ask yourself this. What would happen if I chose to face this instead of running from it? What would happen if I stopped letting my anxiety decide for me? You'll feel the weight lifting. You'll feel the freedom begin to settle in, not as a burden, but as a choice, as your choice. And maybe, just maybe, that's when you'll realize you were never really avoiding at all. You were just waiting for the courage to move forward. So stop waiting, stop avoiding, step into your freedom, and don't look back. But let's talk about anxiety. Not the surface level kind. Not the kind you toss around in casual conversation like it's just stress or nerves. No, I'm talking about the deep kind. The kind that creeps in when everything's quiet. When the world finally stops screaming and you're left alone with your thoughts. That's when it shows up. Uninvited. Unrelenting. The kind of anxiety Kierkegaard was talking about. See, he didn't treat anxiety as a flaw. He didn't say it was something to fix or cure. He saw it for what it really is. A signal, a mirror, a revelation. Anxiety, he said, is the dizziness of freedom. But not because freedom is bad, because it's too much. Too many options, too many selves you could become, too many futures that could unfold from the smallest choice you make. That's what anxiety really is. It's the body's way of responding to the infinite, of reacting to the unbearable realization that nothing is stopping you except you. And that realization, it unravels you. Because most people aren't afraid of being trapped, they're afraid of being unchained. Because the second you realize you have power, you also realize you're responsible. And responsibility feels like guilt before it feels like freedom. It presses down on your chest. It eats away at your sleep. It leaves you frozen, stuck between all the lives you could live, unable to commit to any of them. That's the trap. Anxiety tells you that if you wait long enough, the fear will go away, that the right choice will reveal itself, that clarity will come if you're patient. But it doesn't. It never does. The fear doesn't leave. It waits. It lurks in the background of every unfinished plan, every what if every moment you scroll past your own life, watching everyone else move while you stay paralyzed. It festers in silence. It builds in stillness. And eventually, it becomes who you are. Not just something you feel, but something you become. You start calling yourself indecisive. You start believing you're not capable. You say things like, "I'm just anxious," like it's a personality trait. But it's not. It's a reaction to your own freedom, a defense mechanism, a way of numbing yourself so you don't have to deal with the fact that you've been avoiding the real you. Because the real you, the one beneath the fear, it terrifies you. It's too raw, too powerful, too unknown. And that's why you hide. You tell yourself you need more time, that you're waiting for the right feeling. But deep down, you're not waiting. You're hiding from a choice that only you can make. You're waiting for something outside you to tell you what your life is supposed to be. But no one's coming. No one ever was. And when you realize that, the anxiety spikes. Because suddenly it's not about failure anymore. It's about the realization that you've been letting fear raise you like a parent. That you've been shaped not by what you love, but by what you avoid. And that's where the spiral begins. Anxiety makes you doubt yourself, doubt your desires, doubt your voice. It makes you question if you even want the things you used to crave. It clouds everything. You start shrinking your life down to what's manageable, predictable, safe. But safe is a cage, and cages don't make you feel secure. They make you forget you ever had wings. So how do you escape the trap? You face it. You stare the anxiety down, not to make it go away, but to understand it, to recognize that it's not your enemy. It's a compass. A dark, twisted, uncomfortable compass pointing to the very thing you've been avoiding. Because that's the thing about anxiety. It shows up where you're most alive. The areas of your life that scare you the most, that make your chest tighten and your thoughts spiral. That's not weakness. That's potential. That's power waiting to be reclaimed. But only if you stop running. Only if you choose to feel it fully. Let it break you open. Let it burn everything that isn't real. Only then can you start building something honest. So don't ask for the fear to leave. Don't ask for safety or clarity or some sign that you're on the right path. Ask to endure the dizziness. Because that's what this is. That sickening spin in your stomach, that blur of thoughts and trembling doubt. It's not a malfunction. It's not weakness. It's what happens when you stand at the edge of your own freedom and look down. It's vertigo. Psychological vertigo. And it means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Kierkegaard understood that this dizziness, this anxiety, isn't your enemy. It's the price of becoming more than you are. It's the signal that you're no longer asleep, that the blindfold is off, that you're finally seeing life for what it is, uncertain, unstructured, full of unbearable choices, and unlimited possibility. So feel the spin. Let it rattle you. Let it make you nauseous. Let it tear away every illusion of control you once clung to. Because it means you're free. And if freedom makes you dizzy, that's how you know it's real.